Hello and welcome back to the One Hotspur Podcast YouTube channel. Today I'm joined by Samuel from THFC National. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Doing all right. Today we're going to be looking at what lineup Spurs should be using for the rest of the season and what players should be in that lineup. So, what formation do you think we should use?
Well, I know a lot of people have said do the 4-4-2, but I don't think that works. I know it got us a result against Villa, but a lot of teams have been beating Villa recently, and the game against Newcastle, I thought we stuck with the 4-4-2 for quite a long period, if not the whole game. I think it was the whole game, and we didn't really look too good with it. So I don't think the 4-4-2 works. I'd go back to the 4-3-3, and that's what I've got my team is, the 4-3-3.
Okay. I think the 4-4-2. I think we used it for part of the game against Villa. I think in the second half when Sun came on, we went more to a 4-4-3 or sorry, a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1 with Lucas and Sun on the wings. I do think there's definitely a lot of potential in the 4-4-2. It definitely didn't work for us against Newcastle, but I think there's potential in both formations for us, and the ability to switch back and forth from the 4-4-2 to the 4-2-3-1 or the 4-3-3 is good for us to have. But
this is probably one of the only times we're going to hear this, and we definitely weren't expecting to say this, but we've actually got squad depth, which means we can make changes which would work because we've got numerous players in different positions, so we can stick with a formation as well if someone goes out injured. Even if Kane went out injured, we've got a backup now, so we can stick with a formation, I think, most of the time. Obviously, if it's a 4-4-2 and Kane's out, then you can't do that, but most formations work because we've got a good squad depth, which is vital, I think.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really important. Let's just jump right in, though. I think we can both agree that our goalkeeper should be Lloris. I don't think there's any competition.
I have to agree. I don't think I can disagree. Joe Hart is a good backup, but I'm putting in that starting lineup. He wouldn't even make a West Brom starting lineup, especially with Johnson. So
okay. I think that's good. And then going into the left back, I think we can also both agree here that Reguilón should be going in. I don't think Ben Davis has any claim.
I heard a lot of people say that Reguilón is not good enough because he can't do the defensive role, but I think he's not the best at defending, and Ben Davies is probably better at defending, but his crosses, his attack, his defending isn't that bad. Look, I'm happy to sacrifice a bit of bad defending every game if it means that there's some exciting passes into the penalty box for Kane to get onto. I'd accept that. I'd sacrifice the defensive side of things when you've got 3 fullbacks or 3 centre-backs and fullbacks in the back four that would do that. So I think Reguilón is probably the best option in.
I think people are overreacting a little bit when they say Reguilón's defending isn't that great, because if you look back at the beginning of the season, he was world class.
Bad game against Newcastle. He wasn't excellent. Some of our fans just jump on the back of players after every bad performance, and I saw a few comments that Tanganga's not good enough. He's not yet at the level that we need, but I rate him, and it was one bad performance. You cannot judge him on one bad performance. So if he puts 5 in a row and they're seriously bad, then perhaps he needs some time away from their first team. But I don't think that one rare performance is fair.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, I think ultimately it's just that, like you're saying, I think this was his first game back from injury as well. He got injured against Aston Villa, right? And then he came back. So I think it's awfully just overreacting in general to judge him so harshly. And I mean, like I said, going back to the beginning of the season, he was a world-class defender. And I think he is just a better option than Ben Davis at the moment.
I'm thinking of one moment when I talk about Reguilón, and I'm thinking that in the Carabao Cup when we played Chelsea, we I think I can't remember whether he started or came off of the bench. I think he started Reguilon, but he came on and he
started.
or well, if he started, then he started. But I remember he went too high up the pitch, and I think it was Kante. He won the ball back, went on a massive sprint. No, I think it was Ziyech or someone won the ball back. I can't remember it fully. Then passed it to Conte, I think it was, and Reguilon sprinted about half the pitch to try and get back, and then made a really good slide tackle. I think that's on their official TikTok account, so we can have a look at that soon. But that was a very, very good bit of defending, and I think that was really the moment when Tottenham fans fell in love with Reguilon, and they thought, we've got a really good player here and not a flop. So I've got to rate Reguilon, and I think he definitely starts.
Yeah, I agree with you. Moving on to the center back, I think this is where the first bit of
controversial one. This one
controversy comes in. Yeah. So who would you prefer as your two starting center backs?
Well, I think that Ori is the best right back at the club, so I'd move Tanganga back to centre back. Now I know everybody says he's not a centre back; he's a right back, but I think he has potential at centre back. So I'd put him in the centre back slot, and I'd also put Joe Rodon as well, because I think fans are getting a little bit too, oh wow about him, but I think he's a good defender. And let's face it, anything's better than Dyer or Sanchez right now. Well, maybe not Sanchez, but Dyer. I mean, you could put some 5-year-olds in the defence and it would do better than Eric Dyer would. So I'd definitely drop Dyer out of the conversation right now. But I'd put Tanganga and Rodon at centre back personally.
I think there's definitely a case to be made on whether or not Aurier is best right back at the club. I think that Tanganga has definitely put his best foot forward. Maybe not against Newcastle, but in terms of some of his other performances, I thought he's performed very well. So I think it's just
City in the Liverpool game. He's a big game player, and that's why I put him in the final.
And I think the other thing is that I think long term his position is going to be at center back. I think he's doing something similar to someone like Sergio Ramos, who started his career like he is a center back now, obviously, but he played right back with Real Madrid for a time. So I think ultimately we will see Tanganga move back into that center back position.
I think he's going to do a David Alaba here, where he starts off as a centre back. I think we can call on him if we really are tight of options, or our defence is just shocking. But I think he can be called upon at centre back. But I think moving forward, and I know Mourinho said it in a comment once, that his position is probably right back. And with Aurier probably departing and when his contract expires, or even sooner, because we'll sell him, I can't see us reaching an agreement, because apparently he's uncoachable, Mourinho said. So I'd probably end up seeing him leave. And I think that's when Tanganga comes into the right back position and the talks of that. And let's face it, Matt Doherty is not a long-term option at right back unless he turns it around miraculously. But I really can't see anyone else apart from Tanganga, really. But I mean, there's still youth. There's a lot of youth players that we've got at right back, I think. So be interested to see if one of them could make a breakthrough into the first team. And I'd love to see that personally.
Yeah, so I think we will agree for this one that our options that we can go with Rodon and Tanganga as center backs. I think that is a little risky just due to the lack of experience between the two. And I would like to see Alderweireld play in some games, but I think maybe just giving it to two of the guys who will really fight for it is our best option going forward. And then that leaves Aurier, because I do like Matt Doherty. And I really want him to succeed at the club. But at the moment, he's not performing well enough to warrant a starting spot. So I think that has to be Aurier on the right hand side of defense. Would you agree with that?
I agree. That's agreed.
Alrighty. And then moving on into midfield. who would you play in our midfield three?
Well, I don't think there's any discussion that Højbjerg is one of the first men in the team sheet, let alone the midfield, if not the first in the midfield, because he's just so vital to the holding midfield role and the defensive midfield. And he's so crucial. And if we was to win a trophy, I think he is one of the players that would be the star of that, if you want to call it. So I'd put him in the central defensive midfield role. Or if you're going to play with a cam, then obviously you don't play a CDM and a cam in a formation very often. So you'd put him in the central midfield alongside who I'd put is in Ndombele. And then at cam, I think it's obviously going to be Lucas Moura, because whilst he's on a run of momentum, you're not just going to end that, because, we've got some crucial games, obviously the cup final. We need to treat that like the Champions League. I've said that a few times. Like, we're going into the Champions League final. It's a must-win game, life or death. So I think we need him to definitely be at his best for that. And a very, very prime Lucas Moura seems to be a hard thing for opponents to try and defend. So I'll go for a midfield three of Højbjerg and Ndombele, and slightly ahead Lucas Moura.
I think for the remainder of the season, I agree that that's probably the midfield we should play. But next season, I'm really looking forward to Skip coming back and maybe another midfield signing, because I'd really like to see Ndombele going back into that attacking mid role. But I don't think Sissoko Ranks is good enough to be a starter in that holding mid spot alongside Højbjerg.
Well, there's so many options, and it really all revolves around what happens in the summer. Because if Skip comes back and maybe someone's sold even, I doubt Højbjerg or Ndombele will be going anywhere, especially not Højbjerg, because he only just came. But if somebody is to be sold, then perhaps there's room for Skip to come in. But I think, instead of letting him sit on the bench, which is if I was manager where he'd be, I'd send him out on another loan, because he's an excellent backup. He's an excellent backup to have, but is he really there right now? I know he's been playing really well for England under 21s, and I know he's playing well on loan at Norwich, but I think that perhaps we should just give him one more season at Norwich.
See, that's the thing is, for me, I think, depending on who we're playing, I think in bigger games, maybe it's better to have two holding mids, like Højbjerg and
then you could play
Skip next to each other.
3-1, for example, with Ndombele playing higher.
But the other thing that I was thinking about was how at the beginning of the season, after every game, we would talk about, oh, what a game Ndombele had, like, oh, he played so well. And now it's rare, and it's not happening as often and frequently. And I think that's because of his position change to playing deeper in the field.
Look, moving forward, he's a cam. And if we don't complete the Bale signing, which, if I'm being honest, I don't want us to sign Gareth Bale. And it's not because of those comments. I just think, 32, 33, I think his age is around that. That's not a signing for 5 years' time. Obviously not. But I think there's Lucas Moura, who's already at the club, saves us going out and spending in a sort of unnecessary position when you look at it, because there's Bergwijn and Lamela as well. So we don't need a right winger. We can let Bale go back and not invest in him, I think. And we're not going to sign him on a free agent. I'd be livid if we did, because that would be a massive contract, £600,000 a week or whatever it would be, for someone who's only going to be there for a few more seasons. He's going to get a load of injuries. So I think Lucas Moura would move over to the right on that. But like I said, there's so many options. There must be over 100 different ones. And, it just goes to show that from the centre-back partnership that there's simply so many partnerships and so many that don't really work, like the Sanchez and Dyers. They don't really go together.
Yeah. Before we finalize that attacking mid role in the team, though, do you think Lo Celso could be with an opportunity of playing as the attacking mid for the rest of the season?
Well, Lo Celso is in form, I think. He was the only player I thought against Zagreb that deserved to go home and think, we've lost, but at least I played well. there was no one else who could say that. Not even Kane or Lloris could really say that. But I think that Lo Celso is one of those players that on his day he's brilliant. When he's not on his day, he's useless. Well, not useless, but he's not really game changing. So he's a moment player, I think. So I wouldn't play Lo Celso. But again, he's young, I think. Yeah, I think he's about 24. So I definitely keep him at the club. I don't think we should sell him, but it's just so much competition like there is at right wing. But, you know, it's
that's
just
the thing.
so
it's like,
hard
I think
to
I would
pick.
rather have Lucas at right wing and Lo Celso at cam than Lucas at cam and then whoever else at right wing. I know Bale had a nice bit of form, but when he comes on, he seems so disinterested and not as heavily involved in the game as everyone else does, and he just doesn't seem to have the same amount of passion.
I was going to say that's why I don't really want Gareth Bale to come back, because I feel like he was only going on a good run of form. This wasn't suddenly Gareth Bale's back, everybody. You know, get out my way. Gareth Bale's back at Tottenham. He's going to be the best player that we're going to have for the rest of the season. I don't think that was ever the case. I just thought, you know, it's fun whilst it lasts. Let's hope it goes on for a while. And I was hoping it would extend out to the cup final, but it just seems like he can't change the game anymore. And I think age and injury and Real Madrid talks and everything's just come together and exploded, and it's just not worked. So I think Gareth Bale's been a flop, you know. And I know our fans take one game to judge on our players. Some fans are like, oh my goodness me, Gareth Bale, oh my gosh, what a player, man of the match every game. He should be our player of the season, or, you know, whatever you vote for. And we should suddenly sign him back. But you forget so many things and you get carried away when you say that. Like, there's so many reasons why you shouldn't do that. There's age, there's wages. You know, Tottenham couldn't even afford the image rights of Dybala or whatever was going on there. So I think there's a problem between the contract and the age, and it, like I said, it just comes together and says no, a load of no's, and there's only really one yes, and that's that you've got a very good leader, someone who wins stuff. But yeah, I think I just don't think we should sign Gareth Bale permanently.
So who would you start? Just as far as the rest of the season goes, who would you start as our right winger? Would that be Bale?
Well, I mean, like you said, you made a very good point about Ndombele. So perhaps Lucas could move off there, but maybe Lucas isn't as good there. I would start Lamela, and I just feel like he's another one of those players who's on a momentum run. So why take him out the team? Obviously, he was forced to take him out after Arsenal because he was suspended, but he came back and he looked feisty as always. And he's someone who always fights for the spot. He's someone who wants to run. He's someone who's always aggressive on the ball. It just all makes sense, really. And I hope he doesn't leave, because I think I just feel like this momentum run could extend out a bit longer than just a momentum run. And it's the same with Lucas, and I've been saying it for a while, but I think Lamela's really had a really good season. And there has been a few players who have had a really good season, like Højbjerg, like Kane, like Son, to an extent. But
I think saying Lamela has had a very good season is maybe taking it over the top a little bit. I agree.
He's been good. It's probably his best season at Tottenham.
Oh, I don't know if I would agree with that either. I mean, I think overall, Lamela, he's only scored one Premier League goal this season. I mean, he has probably scored. Yeah, his only goal this season is against Arsenal, the Rabona. That's such an Eric Lamela thing to do. But I mean,
but then he adds so much to the team. I think not just the goals.
Yeah.
And I know people say, oh, but you slaughter Bergwijn when he doesn't get goal involvements. But at least Lamela tries, and I just get the sense that Bergwijn, he doesn't try as much as Lamela, and he's not quite as aggressive. So
I think Bergwijn's effort is up there with Lamela. I think his work is definitely there. I think he needs his confidence back. I don't think he's going to start the rest of the season, so not too much reason to talk anymore about him. But I think if Lucas does start at cam, and I think that's Lucas's best position, I think Lamela is definitely in the conversation of starting. I think even Lo Celso could be considered as kind of like an inverted right winger.
I've always thought that him and I'm pretty sure there's one other player, perhaps even Dele Alli would suit the wing. I know it just seems crazy, but if you're lacking options, just give it a try. Why wouldn't you? You know, if you don't try it, then you're never gonna know. And if it works, like Lucas that can, if you look at last season when he played striker when Kane and Son was absent, you think, oh my god, what is he doing anywhere near the centre role? Obviously, he had no supply whatsoever, but he just seemed capable of playing in the cam role this season. Whereas last season, when he was playing in a central role, he just looked like effortless.
Lost. I think so overall, I think for me, I would put Lo Celso in the right wing role. I think it's worth trying it, seeing if it works for him.
Well, like I
and
said,
then it also gives us that versatility to move into the 4-4-2 diamond, and like just bringing him back a bit, and then having Højbjerg, Lucas, Dombele, and himself play in that midfield four. So I think just overall that offers us the most.
I personally think that we need a bit of width, not just the two fullbacks. Because let's think about it, Aurier doesn't get forward all the time.
Oh, Aurier gets forward all the time.
He gets forward sometimes, but it's nowhere near as much as Reguilon. And I just feel like,
I agree
like
with
you
that.
said, Son goes missing without Reguilon there. One of our members of this group said that once back when I can't remember what game it was, or we played poorly, no surprise there, but he said about bringing Reguilon back and how that benefits Son, and I don't think Son scored since, and Son's going on a horrible drought, but it's worth bearing in mind that we need wingers in this team, not just wing backs.
I think it's also worth considering that Aurier didn't play against Aston Villa or against Newcastle. So I think having two attacking fullbacks who are in form and on both sides of the 4-4-2 diamond, that would do us a lot better than having Tanganga on the right side, because Tanganga doesn't get forward as much, and he isn't as attacking as Aurier.
If Tanganga doesn't get forward, then you've got one wing player, and that's Reguilon, because Son would end up playing striker in a 4-4-2, because you don't leave Son out of your team really. And everyone says, oh yeah, he's a striker, but is he? Probably not. I think his best position is left wing, and that kind of moves us on perfectly for left wing and striker, which I think striker is obviously Vinicius. No, only joking. Obviously it's Kane, and Kane, definitely Son. I don't even think. Wait, have we got a backup left winger, or am I just going crazy? I don't think we've got one, have we?
Bergwijn's first position is technically left winger, actually, but obviously Son is in that role.
Wasn't he?
What?
He was on FIFA last season. He came in as a left wing, but
he came. Well, he played at a PSV as a left winger when we signed him, and then when he got to the club, he started playing right winger because obviously Son has that role. So
yeah, I think that Son and Kane at left wing, and obviously at right wing I said Lamela, and I think that kind of rounds up my team, which I went for. So I went for Lloris in goal. I went for Aurier, Rodon, Tanganga, and Reguilon at the back, and midfield three of Højbjerg and Dombele and Lucas, and a front three of Kane, Son, and Lamela.
So I think this is the only position that we really disagree on is the right winger position. And I just wanted to point out a stat really quick, because I do think that Lo Celso should be given an opportunity there. So far this season, Lo Celso has 13 appearances, only 6 starts, and this is only in the Premier League, and 1 goal and 1 assist. Whereas Lamela has 18 appearances, 1 goal and no assists. So he only has 5 starts as well. So he hasn't done quite as he hasn't started. He started 1 less game, but I think I think overall, for me, I would start this also like I was saying. We can agree to disagree there, but yeah, like I said, I think Lewis also deserves an opportunity, especially because he did so much for us last season in the squad.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I think that rounds out the team. And any last comments on it?
Not really. No, I think that we've concluded teams that have very big potential to go to get us top four. But I think it's worth bearing in mind that the squad depth has got better. But you know, if we to do a video on this in the future for next season, I think we've done something similar in the past. But it just seems like there's such a big change coming this summer. So many players. Well, I know we always say, "Oh, there's going to be so many players that come in," and we end up with 2 players coming in, and about 20 departing or something like that. But I just think that there will be massive changes at the summer in terms of players. Probably Sabitzer are coming in. I think we'll get that deal done. But I also think other players will end up departing. You know, I saw the rumours today about a few players going, Dele Alli, Harry Winks, all of those players perhaps going. I'd be prepared to see them go. Even Sissoko, my favourite player, as you probably know. I think it's probably time for him to go because I'd rather he left in our good books than in our bad books, if you want to call it that. But I think that there will be massive changes this summer. There's also links about Oria, Foyth, Sanchez, and all that going as well. But I think we should stick with a few of those options. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think this team would maybe qualify for top 4.
Oh yeah,
maybe win us the final.
We're capable of it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for listening. We really appreciate you guys. If you want to subscribe, we'd appreciate that. And yeah, follow us on Instagram, listen to our podcasts, and we'll see you in the next one. Come on, you Spurs.